Alright, I'm still trying to get used to this GoPro. I did some searching on Professor YouTube because I have a 07 F350 and the rear main seal's leaking. So I called the shop about putting in a rear main seal because I thought that you'd have to like set up the pinion gear again, not the pinion, but yeah, the pinion gear, and they wanted $200-300. So I checked Professor YouTube, and luckily I watched enough videos to find out that you mark the nut when you take it off the pinion, so you put it back in the right place because the shims are there. You want the right tension or preload on it without having to reset up the whole third member on it. So while I was at it, I looked at the U-joints, and it looks like the back U-joint's going bad. The truck's got 160,000 on it. It's 20 years old. So I bought all the U-joints, carrier bearing, and the rear seal. We're going to do the driveline basically. So hopefully this will be helpful to somebody. One of the things, I'm in Florida, it's 90 degrees out. I don't know if any of you guys ever seen these wet rags, but I was introduced to them when I was out in Albuquerque. And it helps cool you down a little bit even with the high humidity here in Florida. So we're gonna crawl underneath the truck and give you an overview of that as soon as I find out how to operate this thing. So one of the things that I thought made a lot of sense was to take and wet everything down. So I wet everything down, and then the other thing you want to do is that I thought was good information was you're going to want to mark that pinion nut, which I'll show you later. It's up in there, so that you get it back to the right spot, the right preload on your pinion. And then I'm gonna actually mark the yokes to the flange, so that it all goes back the same way it was. One guy, he took and he painted them across there. I think I'm going to take and make a mark with a grinder, and then this whole thing is coming out. Take the whole drive line out all the way up to the transmission, and there's a yoke on that too, which I'm hoping that will stay in the transmission so I don't lose transmission oil. But I got everything soaked down, and now I'm going to go mark it, and then I'll come back to this, and hopefully we'll get that seal in there and won't have too much oil running out of it when we do it. So three things after multiple trips underneath. Got these bolts over here. So I marked, well, let me get the light. I did some marking so I can match the pieces going back together. This mark to that mark, and then that mark to that mark. Might be going a little bit fast, but yeah, I got it marked back here. So I thought I'd mention a couple of things as well that I do. And I never did like regular car ramps, so I built that out of 1x12s, and it worked out well for my semi, and they've lasted several decades. So it's a suggestion or a solution to a problem. And then like that thing, you can't get a jack underneath it, so you run the front end up on the ramps and the back end's up on some flat boards, and then you can get a jack under it, get it up in the air where you can work on it. So these bolts come on from this side, and I'm going to be in the process of starting to take this apart. Plus another thing I guess I could point out is I don't like creepers, and I fall off them more than anything. So I usually use a moving blanket. I got tired of putting on coveralls a long time ago. I would imagine this is going to be an all-day sucker, so we'll update you as we go. Oh, the socket sizes, just for reference, if I can see them, I think this is a 12, that goes on the back rear end here. Where's my light? There's my light. So you need a 12 point for that. Oops, wrong one. Try this. What is it? Yeah, that's the 12. And then up here, I'm cheating and going with a standard. Well, it feels pretty good. That's 11/16, and that goes up there. And then this, the 10, net 10 goes right here. So we'll start breaking this on down and see how it goes. So as you can see, once you get the drive line off, that the way the flange is, you could put that flange from the drive shaft on there about any way. But anyway, here's my mark over here. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. Now I got to get this pinion nut off and the yoke off to replace the seal, and then there's U-joints to put in the drive line. Stay tuned for the next cartoon right here. So I'm hoping this marking is going to be good enough for me to put it back to the proper tension and location. So you're going to need a puller if you're doing a rear seal, it looks like. I marked the nut and got it off, and now this is splined onto the pinion and it's not coming off without a force. So I happen to have a puller. I think this puller might work, and then get that pulled off so we can get at the seal. Once we get the seal done and this put back together, then we can start actually putting U-joints in the drive shaft. So to get these clips out of here, you can try a needle nose pair of pliers, and it wouldn't move them. So the next option is a BFH and a punch. And you put the punch in here and loosen it up, and then back this way, the other way, and then you'll get them loose where you can take them out. Now I'd already soaked this down with penetrating oil, and it's not doing me a lot of good. I haven't been able to get the yoke off the differential, the pinion gear, and this was a lot of fun. A while back I bought myself a new 5-inch vise, and that was a mistake. I used to have an 8-inch, and I should have got at least a 6-inch. Putting these caps in is a real pain in the effort. So more as it happens. So here we are 7 hours later. We got the drive line off. That's where the carrier bearing ran, up here, and then that's the other end. Sorry about the camera work, but there's 2 U-joints in. I have another U-joint to do, and I'm not going to try the carrier bearing. It seems like it's in good shape. What I wanted to point out, and you can thank me for not doing the 7 hours of video up to this point. So these are the pullers I had to use, and this is actually the one that got it off because it's got this little end on it that more matches this. And then I had a couple of, luckily, 5-inch bolts. But this is the puller I started with that flat end. You wanted to walk off this, and that actually bent the bolts. And then it didn't seem like it was coming along very fast, so I soaked this up with inside of here with WD-40 and let it sit while I put those 2 U-joints in, and then it came off much better. And then here we have the seal that I have to get out, and it's got some type of protective thing on this part of the yoke. So here's the other seal to put in, and I was gonna just use, well, here goes my light, hang on a second. This is always fun. I really don't like corded equipment anymore, but the DeWalt light here is not very effective. I need to find one battery operated that's a floodlight, and that would work better, I think. So what I was saying is I got my pry bar. I was going to get my pry bar in here and try to pop the seal out. Well, I know a lot of you guys think this, you know, looks like a screwdriver, but it's a pry bar, punch, and chisel. You could use it as a screwdriver too, I guess. But I happened to visit a friend of mine. We were out of town yesterday, and so he lent me his seal puller. So now we're going to pull the seal in 5 minutes, and then hopefully have that flange put back on there, which I marked with a cold chisel when I took it off, in case you missed that part. There's the other mark. So I'll line it up when I put it back on, and then I have to go change the last U-joint on the front shaft, so stay tuned. Here we go. I've never owned one of these myself. Oop, knocked the camera over, okay. Whoopsie daisy. Well, that's not good. Started pulling it out, and the pin's missing. Go back to my original plan, I guess, of using my screwdriver slash crowbar. That doesn't fit in there very well. You know, somehow I knew when I started filming this that this wasn't going to go very well, and I sure glad I wasn't disappointed. But anyway, my crowbar seems like it worked. Looks like I forgot to bring a rag down here with me too. But then everything looks good. All the bearings look like they're in there. So then we're going to try to tap this in here. Well, I guess you don't have to watch my tapping. Once I get that in, I'll turn it back on. So as I keep cranking this down, I'm doing it by hand right now because, and I mean that's how tight it is on the splines, but then I end up looking over here to make sure that this cover is riding right on the seal. It looks like everything's okay that way. Well, here it is, all put back together again. I didn't change the carrier bearing. They say that you should put the greaser, 180 off. I don't know if it's 100% true, but if anybody has a better way of putting U-joints together than trying to balance the casting between the two caps when you're pressing it together, let me know, because I think it's one of the most frustrating jobs there is to do. Good luck.